Beware the idiot, the zealot, and the tyrant. Each clothes himself in the armor of ignorance. Today I finished The Justice of Kings, the first book in the Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Richard Swan, and this book was utterly fantastic and exactly what I've been looking for in my dark fantasy, and I didn't even know it. Before I even get into what about this book worked for me so well and why I liked it so much, let me actually pitch this one, because I don't think that this book is well known enough, and it honestly deserves a lot more attention and a lot more praise. Imagine, for a moment if you will, Judge Dredd set in a Holy Roman Empire dark fantasy setting with the powers of the Voice from Doom and necromancy. That's right, this book is a first-person novel that follows Helena, who is a clerk for the Justice, Sir Conrad von Volt, who is, the justice for the Emperor, and he is judge, jury, and executioner. He has the ability to, track down criminals, hunt them, hang them, kill them, whatever. And this entire novel is about trying to figure out who murdered this noble lady and the conspiracy theory behind it, which turns out to be conspiracy theory that may or may not lead to the entire collapse of a nation. This book is awesome. It is a very interesting and different take on fantasy than what I'm used to, because as anyone who's been following me for a while knows, I like the epic fantasy. I like series like, Wheel of Time or Malazan or, Lord of the Rings, where it is continent expanding. It is, good versus evil. It's massive armies facing off against one another. It's prophecy, and it's all these other things. And The Justice of Kings, while it has these really big elements and hints of a much wider world and much bigger conspiracy theories and politics that are massive and encroaching and matter to the entire world, it is also much more focused on its setting. It's set in a very small part of a much wider world. Its entire focus is about solving a murder and the conspiracy theory behind it. And honestly, I just found it so refreshing. Everything about this book, at least for me, pretty much worked. First of all, the character work here is really solid. Anyone who is a fan of character work is not going to be disappointed in this. Helena, who is the voice and the conduit from which we see this story, is a great character all on her own. But what is really impressive is that Richard Swan, despite choosing to do first person, which I always find to be the most difficult when writing a multitude of characters, still somehow accomplishes making the characters that you're interested in be unique. You are going to love Sir Conrad von Volt, and you are never inside his head, but you completely understand his motives. You completely understand who he is as a character, and Helena's analysis of him is just breathtaking. It's really well done. And that is something that I find very impressive, is that Swan was able to capture the voice of so many other characters while only having a singular person to view the world through. And I really do like the fact that Helena was the voice to hear this story through, because her voice is very interesting, and it leads to some very cool dynamics that I don't want to spoil, but I found impressive. The character work isn't the only good thing, though. The world building here and the setting are also really cool. Like I said, it's kind of this very Germanic, Holy Roman Empire, dark fantasy thing going on. It feels a lot less British than most of the fantasy I read. Most of the fantasy I read is very European. But a lot of the fantasy I read is very much inspired by Lord of the Rings, which is inspired by, to a degree, British history. Whereas this book in particular feels much more Germanic. And I don't know exactly how to describe that, but if you're familiar with the Holy Roman Empire, I feel like you're probably going to get that vibe as well. It just felt very Germanic to me. It felt very distinct. while still having a lot of that fantasy flavor that I've come to enjoy as a reader. So the setting is really cool. I feel like there's this darkness there that is really unique. Like, it's creepy. The Richard Swan, he employs necromancy. He employs otherworldly creatures. He employs powers beyond human imagination, and the way he does it is very, very cool. This book is, when it comes to like the actual fantastical elements, fairly low on them, which makes the fantastical elements, when they happen, feel that much richer. This is not like Malazan, where you're going to see a dragon fly down and torch a city, or Wheel of Time, where you're going to see somebody use a magical power to shoot a fireball. This is much more closer to something like A Song of Ice and Fire, where there is magical elements, but they're kind of on the backdrop and they're never explained, but it just, in my opinion, makes it really, really cool and very rich. And also, this is the first time I've seen necromancy used in this way, and I love it. Like, this is exactly, if I ever decide to write anything with necromancy, you guys, I'll let you know right now, Richard Swan was my inspiration, because the way he deals with it was really cool. He also deals with ideas of gods and other planes of existence in a really cool and refreshing way that I really, really enjoyed. So the atmosphere and the world building is exceptional, and despite only being set in a very, very small area of the Empire of the Wolf, it is obvious to me that Richard Swan, he has a lot of really cool ideas kind of cooking on the back burner that we're probably going to bite into later in this series and in this trilogy and in the rest of his books that are set in this world. So I'm very excited to see the rest of that. It felt very refreshing, very cool, lots of depth, despite the fact that it's only in one setting. Another thing that is really impressive is the pacing here. This is 14 hours on audio or less. It's not a very long book by any stretch of the imagination, and it feels very, very tightly told. I feel like Richard Swan does not waste a single page in this book. I feel like every single page was used to a purpose. It felt very, very well paced. I thought the mystery and the intrigue was built upon with every new chapter. I thought the character work was expounded upon with every new chapter. I thought the plot stayed steady. The mystery was always there. There was always some level of intrigue going on, and it felt like at every corner and at every turn, you were always wanting to know more. So the pacing was excellent. And finally, the prose. The prose here is great. It is not overwrought or overly complex, and yet there is enough flavor and distinction here that, you know, if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like very plain prose, if you're someone who wants a little bit more flavor, a little bit more, like that language and that use of language was like kind of, you know, fun to hear or to read, then you're not going to be disappointed. He makes it both readable and also flavorful in a way that I thought was really, really well balanced. So honestly, The Justice of Kings all around is just a great book. It's great when it comes to characters, pacing, world building. This whole thing is thematically built around the idea of jurisprudence, which is the theory of law, which, you know, I thought was really cool. It's a very, very different and distinct way to approach fantasy, but I really, really liked it. I'm going to give it an 8.8 out of 10. This is utterly fantastic, and if anything I said interests you at all, I highly, highly recommend it. I feel like Richard Swan has not gotten his flowers yet, but I can tell that this dude is going to be a powerhouse when it comes to writing fantasy, and The Justice of Kings was nothing less than a pleasant surprise to read.